mic. Sorry to say good morning, good afternoon to everybody, and welcome to the Q&A session in the Master's Programme for Film and Television Studies and Film and Television Practice. With us today, we've got 3 programmes that we're happy to receive questions about, which is the MSc in Film Curation, which is convened by Dr. Lizelle Bischoff. Hello, Lizelle, welcome. The MLitt in Film and Television Studies, which is convened by Dr. Ian Good. Welcome, Ian. And then also the MSc in Filmmaking and Media Arts, which is convened by myself, Dr. Kirsten Adkins, and we'll be talking about those programs today. I also want to introduce Huiting Yang, who is our student on Film and Television Studies. Thank you so much for joining us, Huiting. We really appreciate it. We also have Sophie Babcock from MSc in Filmmaking and Media Arts. Welcome as well to Sophie. And to Holly Lawrence and Evanson from MSc Filmmaking and Media Arts. Hello and welcome, Holly. And the idea of today is for us to just tell you a little bit, very short, account of what we're doing, and then to actually really prioritise your questions. So we really welcome you dropping a question into the chat, and we'll hope to kind of generate a really good and interesting discussion. So to start with, I think probably the best thing to do is to talk a little bit about, for just a very short time, for Lizelle, for Ian and for I to talk a little bit about our courses. So I'll get started. I'll kick off to talk about the MSc in Filmmaking and Media Arts. And this MSc is really quite unique in terms of MSc programs, in terms of making work, in that it really prioritizes 2 things, really. Innovation, working with lens-based technologies and working with artistic technologies in order to generate new works that are original, explorational and experimental. And the second thing is for students to be able to really kind of develop their own vision and their own voice as practitioners in both filmmaking, but also acknowledging the fact that the technologies around filmmaking are changing all the time. And so there are all sorts of different ways of generating work and also showing work. I'm the program leader. I have a background which is kind of twofold. I work as an experimental filmmaker and a filmmaker who kind of exhibits in galleries. And I also have a background of working in broadcasting, and I worked for many years as a documentary filmmaker for the BBC. So I kind of cover both of those kind of territories. And then you'll also be working with Azadeh Emadi, who is another excellent filmmaker, but who works with really innovative and new technologies and platforms in terms of film. So she'll be kind of offering those new and innovative technological kind of perspectives as well. The film course is a practice-led course. You will be receiving lots of workshops from industry professionals, but also its foundation is really very much in terms of contextualizing film and theorizing film. So you'll be kind of underpinning your practice with really, really, interesting and new concepts and theories. So you'll be kind of combining those 2 things. It places an emphasis on development of your practice. So you start in semester 1 by kind of exploring new techniques. In semester 2, you start to consolidate those methods and ideas and start to write about different ways of approaching filmmaking. And then in the 3rd semester, you will be making your own practice. So you'll be developing your own sort of short to medium length film that we will be taking away with you as part of your show reel. So I'll leave that there, and if there are any more questions that come back about that, then let me know, and I'll hand over to my colleague Dr. Lizelle Bischoff, who will talk to us a little bit about MSc in film curation.
Thank you, Kirsten. Yes, Kirsten said I run the MSc in film curation. This is a program that is training students to put film on in the public space. So it's about exhibiting films, so distributing and exhibiting films, and it looks at the selection of films not only as a sort of practical thing that cinemas and film festivals do, but as a creative activity, as an intellectual activity. So you'll be receiving sort of in-depth training into how you bring films to audiences. The kind of careers that our students go into would be obviously working for film festivals, so curating for film festivals, for cinemas, for other film organizations, working in film archives, working in films of educational establishments as well. So there's a whole range of careers that we see our students going on into. The structure of the program is roughly, we've got two core courses over semester 1 and 2. The first semester core course is called Materials of Film Curation. So that is really about the materiality of film. So you'll be learning everything that has to do with the sort of objects that become part of putting on films in the public space. So we look at projectors. We talk about celluloid versus analog versus digital film. We think about the kind of ephemera that surround putting film onto audiences, so things like posters, brochures, and so on. So that's the first semester course, is materiality. The second semester course is practices of film curation. During that course, you design your own film festival. So you go through all the steps of that you would go through in putting on a film event. So from deciding on your audiences, selecting your films, doing complementary events, so discussions, performances, exhibitions, marketing your film festival. So you'll be thinking about how to work with press, how to develop publicity materials. You design a poster, develop all the branding for your festival, do a trailer, and so on. So in between those two courses, you get a sort of very practical but also a theoretical and historical overview of film curation and film exhibition. You also then do two option courses that students can choose, courses available in the school and further afield. And then one of the I know as an aspect of the program that students find very attractive is the placements or the creative practice project. So in semester 2, you would do either a placement and you'll be based and placed at a film organization in Glasgow, also surrounding Glasgow, a little bit further afield. So these are cinemas, film archives. We work with lots of film festivals in Glasgow, for example, the Glasgow Short Film Festival. We work with the Bowness Silent Film Festival, which is just about an hour from Glasgow. We work with the Moving Image Archive in Glasgow. So students do a 10-week placement there, where you're involved in some sort of public activity to put on an event for public audiences. Or the alternative to that is to do your own creative practice project. So for that, a film screening, we've had students in the past coming together as a group and organizing a mini film festival as part of their creative practice. So there's all kinds of possibilities of things you can do. You also get a small budget for doing your project. So hopefully with this short overview, you can see that it is quite vocational, it's quite practical. It's very good for networking, for building up contacts around Glasgow and further afield, for getting into film programming, curation, and exhibition. So yeah, that's a short overview, and I'm happy to answer any more questions that people might have.
Thank you very much, Lizelle. That sounds really fascinating. Ian, Dr. Ian Good next, MLitt in Film and Television Studies. Can you tell us a little bit about the course and what to expect?
Yeah, thank you. The MLitt in Film and TV is designed to provide a foundational knowledge of the discipline of studying film and television across the full range of its history and development. and it's aimed at students who have either some experience of studying film and television at undergraduate level, or who want to learn about film and television and study film and television at postgrad level. So there's not necessarily a prerequisite in terms of your first degree. The program aims to bring you up to the level of students who've had experience of studying film and TV before. The structure of the program is based on 4 core courses: the history of film and television, research methods and dissertation preparation, and advanced topics courses in film and television as separate courses. You also get the opportunity to take an optional course such as festivals or experimental media or anything else that's on offer from across the school and college. And the dissertation aspect of your course assessment is a crucial part of your program as well. So typically on a weekly level, you'll be having lectures, you'll be going to screenings, you'll be doing preparatory reading for seminars, and the aim is to really give you a foundational knowledge in film and television, so you can start to shape it and bring to bear your own interests in relation to what you pursue in your own research at the assessment for the specific courses and later at dissertation. The aim is to prepare students for further research at PhD, but obviously not everyone goes on to do that. So we're trying to look at giving our students as much in the realm of transferable skills as we can, in terms of presenting what they know and to articulate their assessments across a range of outputs. Yeah, I'll leave it there. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. That's also equally fascinating and a really comprehensive overview of the things that we offer on the program of studies in film and television. I want to move on to talking to the students now, and I'm going to kind of each of you in turn ask you just something about some of the skills that you've developed or the kinds of things that you've gained from the course. So if I could start with Huiting, could you give us a little bit of an overview of the kinds of things that you've learned from the course or the kind of highlights of the skills that you've developed?
Yeah. Thank you, Doctor. The one skills that I think is important is work with my teamwork. My favorite part is that I can exchange the different ideas with the different group members, which gives me more inspection and a different understanding of the subject matter. And also we can do the different part of this work here in order to push the progress. I think that is my favorite part, and I learn a lot of in this part.
So there's a teamwork aspect to what you're doing in terms of developing ideas.
Yeah. Sometimes I just work by myself. I just have the one line in my think. But if we have a lot of teamwork, team member or work member, members that work together, and we can share each other ideas and different opinion about these items or work, and everyone have a duty to the self's part.
Yeah, so everybody plays a part in the development of ideas and processes, which is a really important aspect of kind of the, you know, that we work together in order to kind of to sort of then to be able to develop our own individual kind of approaches to the subject. And that's really fascinating. Thank you. Sophie, can I ask the same question to you? What kind of skills have you gained from the course? What have you got out of the course so far?
I think I came into the course kind of thinking it was going to be a little bit more like they just kind of tell you what to do, you have to go away and do it.
Right.
It's much more collaborative. I think you come away with an understanding of film as a whole, not like as analytically as we did maybe if you did the undergrad here, but it's a very collaborative process where you get to work with other filmmakers. You get to be in lectures where it's not just someone talking at you, it's someone talking with you about the concepts. So I think you come away with a pretty broad level of knowledge that isn't just practical or analytical. And you also come away having worked with a lot of different people in the course on their very different projects, because you get to work on basically whatever you want, which is great. It gives you a lot of creative freedom. And then Kirsten just kind of steers you in the right direction if you get a little bit off course. So yeah.
Okay, is that something that's quite daunting to you, that idea of creative freedom? How do you manage that? Freedom's an interesting thing, isn't it?
I think the way that the course is set up kind of helps with that. When I came in, like, I didn't have a very big like practical film background, but the way they explained it to us was you spend the first semester kind of deconstructing what you know about film, and the second semester kind of putting it together. So the first, like, not everything you make is graded, if that makes sense. Like, it's all about how you're experimenting. So you spend a long time just kind of playing around with what works and what doesn't, and then in the second semester you finally get to put that all together and it all starts making sense. It's much less daunting than when you first get there and you're like, I can just do whatever. Okay. And then they start steering you in the right direction.
And same question. Thank you very much, Sophie. That's really interesting. And Holly, would you be able to sort of speak a little bit to that same question? And we've got a question that's come into the chat as well, which I'll go to after you've given your overview.
Yeah, so I'm also doing the Filmmaking and Media Arts course. And I think some of the skills that I've really developed and, you know, knowledge that I've gained so far have been along the lines of learning how to take a core idea and really sustain it for a long period of time. So in my undergrad, I did a lot of filmmaking in my own time. I taught myself. I've kind of really got to grips with it all through my own like work and my own effort. So it's been really nice to get onto a course where I am actually studying filmmaking. And I think having that motivation beforehand to keep me going through a course where it is demanding, but it's really fun. I don't think if I didn't have that level of motivation, I would be struggling a lot more. But I've really managed to find those skills to sustain an idea. Like Sophie was saying, first semester is very much focusing on experimentation, which is really fun. If you've not done a lot of it before and you haven't really given yourself room to kind of just see what happens, it's really a good skill to learn, and it's invaluable because you know, some things might go wrong, but you learn something through the process, and it just enables you to really open up your mind to what could be done. And I think as well with this course, because it's very self-leading, we have our industry workshops with people. Like, we've had some really fantastic people come in. For example, a guy called Callum Rice, who's an observational documentary maker who's won awards. He's really cool to talk to. This other man called Oliver, who's just like ace at cameras and lighting. He really helped me out. And we got to meet Kitty, who's the director of Lux Scotland, who's an experimental filmmaker herself, but, you know, runs that organization. So we've met some really amazing people, and just having that safety net to be able to talk through our own ideas, kind of push the boundaries of what we can do, and just, you know, see what happens. I've definitely have grown a lot as a filmmaker through this whole process, and have had my boundaries pushed for, you know, good or for bad, but I've grown so much. So I think, you know, in terms of skills, I've I'm like 100% better than I was in September, and I hope to get even better by the end of the course with what I can do. So yeah.
That's excellent. Thank you. I'm just going to kind of bring in a question, which I'm going to ask Lizelle about, actually, because it's referring to film and filmmaking and media arts, but actually it encompasses everything that we're doing, which is the idea of working within the film industry or working within related industries after completing, or something that's embedded into the courses themselves. Holly's just already talked about the fact that we work with industry professionals on the course, but I know that that's something that's very important to the MSc in film curation as well. So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit generally and in particular about the questions posed by Seren. Thanks, Seren, by the way, about employability and about industry experience.
Yes, sure. I can talk a little bit more about the placements that we do in film curation. So we work. The placements can change year by year. It depends on the negotiations with the placement providers across Glasgow and further afield as well, as I said. So in the past, we've worked with the Edinburgh International Film Festival, the Moving Image Archive, as I've mentioned, at Calvin Hall in Glasgow. Also the University of Glasgow Library Archive. So our university library has its own archives that students have delved into as well in the past, and do projects around. The Glasgow Short Film Festival, as I mentioned, the African Motion Film Festival, which is an African film festival that I founded in 2006. The Hippodrome Silent Film Festival in Bowness, which I've mentioned before, and also the Scottish Mental Health Arts and Film Festival. So that's a range of organisations. One that I'm reading from a list, but this is not actually on the list that I have in front of me, is the Centre for Contemporary Arts in Glasgow as well, that we've worked with before. So what I should say about the placements is that we ask the organisations that there has to be a public-facing element involved in the placement. So that means that because with the placements, we usually tell students that when you work with an organisation, you should be prepared to kind of do anything that they ask you to do. So some of it might be administrative tasks that you'd be asked to do, and it might not be the most exciting work. But of course, we want our students to to learn more bespoke skills as well with the placements. So all our placements that we do have a public-facing element. So that means that you will be involved in some capacity in organising an event or doing something that would be public-facing. So that could be film screening. So with the film festivals that our program partner with, we would have our students would, for example, become part of the selection committees of the film festivals, or work on a specific strand of the festival that they would program, or they would work on publicity materials, writing sort of catalogue entries or brochure copy for film festivals, or in archives, working around a certain aspect of the archive, so kind of exploring the archives around a certain theme. For example, I think if I remember correctly, last year was an anniversary. I speak under correction, but I think 100 years of Scottish broadcasting. There was some sort of commemoration. So our student who did a project at the Moving Image Archive did a project around at what they could find around broadcasting in Scotland. So what we have found, what I should mention, is that a number of our students have actually ended up working for the organizations in paid positions that they've done their internships at. So that's quite a good thing to see as well, whether it's full-time or permanent positions or part-time contracts. We have seen that our placement providers often want to keep the students on, obviously because they've done such a good job in the placements that they end up, many of them have ended up getting, even if it's just a short-term contract with the organizations that they've done placements for. So the placements is quite I know a very attractive part of the program, and something that students I know that students are very keen to become part of. And as I've mentioned as well, it's a really excellent way of networking, for building contacts in the film industry. So that was
Yeah. I mean, just to answer your first question. Sorry. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Yes, I didn't mean to cut you off, Lizelle. Yeah. Just to answer Seren's first question, which was around examples of internships and work placements available within the film industry. As Holly and Sophie have mentioned, really that we work with filmmakers and we work with film organisations, but we're not offering specific placements. And I think the reason for that is because that time is given to you developing your show reel and your professional practice. So there's a kind of an assumption that you will want to be kind of working with other professionals in order to develop your professional practice. And Sophie and Holly may also be able to come back in on that to say a little bit more. And I'd also like to hear it from Huiting and Ian as well about this idea of professional practice, which I think actually, as Lizelle said, kind of encompasses everything that we're doing, and that we do work really, there's lots of kind of cross-fertilization between the three courses, which then leads me to your second question, Seren, which is that you ask about the size of the cohort, but also collaborations with other art courses offered at the university. And to say that we do come together with film curation and to an extent with MLitt in Film and Television Studies in a course that I work on with a colleague who's also has got an expertise in film archives, which we also work with the National Archive of Scotland in that respect, and it's called Experimental Practices. And so this idea of exploring and experimenting is something that we have as a philosophy, really, as something that's really important in order to in terms of gaining a kind of professional vision and a voice, either whether that's through film curation or filmmaking, or actually kind of developing a really in-depth understanding and knowledge of film industries and film practices through the MLitt program of study. But Huiting and Ian, you were talking about this idea of transferable professional skills and particularly teamwork. And I was wondering whether you'd be able to sort of come in to talk a little bit more about those transferable skills from Huiting, from MLitt in Film and Television Studies. Do you want to
start off, Huiting?
If you turn your mic on.
So you mean the transferable skills?
Yeah.
And transfer skills.
So let me ask you, what do you want to take forward? How do you want to develop your practice after finishing the MLitt? Perhaps that's an easier way of asking. What do you want to do next?
Sorry, what's that mean? Sorry.
After your course, what do you want to do after your course has finished?
Okay. And sometimes the college regularly emails us about the various activities related to our majors, so we can applying to the internship. Apply to the internship, and which is can such as volunteer at a film festival or practicing in the internships prepared to our field of the study. And this and I think this allowed us to enhance our learning experience and applying our knowledge in related work settings.
Oh, interesting. Ian, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think one of the benefits of watching the students work together in groups is the way that the cohesion builds within a group and is reflected in their group presentations, which they have to do as part of the research methods and dissertation preparation course. So they can come together and agree on a particular topic and then research that topic and present on it. From what I observe, is quite an economical, engaging, and successful way, which they wouldn't have perhaps have been able to do quite so well before they came onto the course. And that they can then feed those skills into the development of their dissertation, and who knows, that then the dissertation might lead to a funded PhD. So that those sorts of skills and pathways are what we try to encourage as part of the course.
Interesting. Yeah, good. Thank you. Seren, you also asked how large the cohort is in MSc Filmmaking and Media Arts, which is an easy one to answer. That it's never usually, it's quite a small course so that we can work quite closely with the students. So it's never usually below 18 students on that particular course. But Sophie and Holly, I wondered if you wanted to say anything about the sort of employability and collaborations and those kinds of things that you've experienced, because I know that you've both kind of had quite a lot of experience of that.
Sophie, do you mind if I go and then you go? Okay. So you mentioned internships. I think Curation did as well. So one thing that is really cool about Glasgow is that it's a partner with the Edinburgh TV Festival, which happens every August. So earlier this year, they sent out an email to anyone interested if they wanted to apply for a program called The Network, which Glasgow students kind of get first dibs on interviews for as their partner with them. So I decided to apply, and I'm now through to the next stage before hopefully getting onto the course. It wasn't really a course, more like a 4 to 5 day kind of program. But that's something that I've managed to kind of do. It's not part of the course, but part of the uni. And, you sort of have to take initiative on these sort of things, especially at master's level. But that's one thing that's open to all students. So I really recommend that as a way forward into potentially the industry. And also, you mentioned collaboration with other courses. So the one thing that immediately came to mind is there's a really big theatre department and program in the uni. So I've been able to kind of get in contact with them and ask for performance space. So the film I'm making is quite experimental, inspired by eco-horror, and I'm looking at performance and movement as my main kind of inspiration for that. So I've been able to find students to help me and performance space just by emailing and asking, basically. So, if you want these things, you've got to go for them and ask, but they are there for you to help. And it's been really good. And I'm hoping to kind of get in contact with a few more people for my dissertation film this summer, and to kind of get more help from the theatre department if they let me. I might have pushed my luck a bit, but yeah, that's just to answer those few questions.
I'm sure you haven't. Sophie, thank you. That's great. Sophie, have you anything to add to that?
I mean, like Holly said, we get emails basically constantly with really great opportunities that we might not have heard about, just like through the grapevine, which is really great. The course does kind of help us out with that. But on top of that, it's also, I know that everyone kind of hates networking, but it's what you have to end up doing. So we all end up kind of working together, not just within the course. Like, it's like, oh, I have a friend who does this kind of thing. And then everyone kind of ends up connecting with different kind of creatives around Glasgow, which is great. We have a really great scene in Glasgow. But I think like Holly said, you have to go out and get it. But if you do actually try, it is out there with all the emails and all the opportunities, but also within the course, everyone has somebody who probably is doing what you're looking for or who knows about it. So I think those are the kind of opportunities that we have.
Excellent, thank you. So we've got that's really great, and thanks for answering those questions. We've got two more questions, one for MLitt, which and one for film curation. So I'll start with MLitt. So which optional courses? This is from Millie Ray. Thank you, Millie, who asks which optional courses are available on the MLitt in Film and TV Studies. Huiting and Ian, can you answer that?
Yeah. For example, this year we offer optional courses in experimental film and media and festivals and any other courses which the student identifies from across the school or college, which is available and fits with the MLitt timetable. We aren't in a position to publish these in advance at the moment because teaching plans are just being drawn up and availability of who's available to teach what isn't established yet. So the range of possible options will vary year on year. But I can give you an example of what we've offered before, and I would encourage you to look further afield if there's something which you want to do in another discipline, say, for example, history of art or literature, have overlaps with film and TV, and you might want to pursue something there. Wei-Ting, what option have you done as part of your course?
I choose the festival. So I have the lessons with Dr. Elizabeth once time. I think the festival is very good because we can know a lot of different festival and from the economic about the festival and the what do the festival do focus on, and the meaningful of the each different festivals. So that's good.
Excellent, thank you very much. And Lizelle, I don't know if you can answer Oscar Farmer's question. Thank you, Oscar, who's asking, is this similar with film curation? I think that relates to the previous but one question, which was around kind of cross-fertilization amongst courses and also about the cohort size.
So we've had some fluctuations in the cohort size over the years. It's not a very old program. It's only run for about, well, it is longer now than what I actually remember, because it is about 8 years. But so it is still a fairly young program. So we've had some fluctuations in numbers, but we've capped it now at 15. So that is around about the number of students that we hope to have year on year. And I think that's a really good number because what we actually had last year, I had a cohort of 26 students, which was quite big, because that makes it more difficult to secure the placements in particular, because as you can imagine, it's difficult to secure 26 placements across Glasgow, and it also means that the budgets are a bit more pinched when it comes to the creative practice projects. So we've decided on 15, which I think is a good cohort size. It allows collaboration and group work between students, but it's small enough that everybody get to know each other and get to collaborate. And then we also have, as was already discussed, we have crossover with other programs as well, in particular with the MLitt in Film and Television Studies, because two of the core courses that was mentioned already, the Advanced Topics in Film Studies and Advanced Topics in Television Studies, which are core courses as part of the MLitt, are option courses for the film curation students. Yeah. Which means that, so they do get to meet some of the MLitt students. And also we, because the dissertation that that my students, the film curation students and the MLitt students write is exactly the same dissertation. So it has the same criteria, the same, expectations and sort of assessment guidelines. We also group them together when we do preparation for the dissertation. So again, we've had a couple of sessions where we brought the two cohorts together, where students can discuss the dissertation topics, get some peer feedback, and again, it's an opportunity, for the students to sort of meet each other across the different cohorts. So yeah, there are opportunities and possibilities for that kind of cross-fertilization, as you say, Kirsten.
Yeah, that's excellent. Thank you. I'm going to hand over to our experts in film, MSc Filmmaking and Media Arts for the next question from Jason Malink, which is what kind of a camera equipment is available for filmmaking and media arts, and how many films do the students get to make? The camera, just to say, the camera equipment is changing and updating, and we've got an update of new cameras coming in over this summer. So we try and keep the cameras relevant and up to date, and the technologies to have longevity, so that for example, the students can kind of shoot at the right kind of quality that's needed for film festivals and beyond. But can I just hand over to Sophie and Holly about equipment and resources, and how we support you making films and getting that important show reel together for future employment?
Yeah, so Sophie and I frequently rent equipment from our lovely equipment officer called Michael. Mm-hmm. And we've kind of had fun playing around with what's on offer. But I think the highlights, just for ease, maybe, we've got two C100s, which are Canon C100s. They're very good, reliable cameras. And we've got one Canon C200. I think we might be getting a few more. That shoots up to 4K, 50p, all that kind of stuff, which is very fun. But Sophie has had fun with a few other cameras.
Yeah, we also have basically anything that you can ask for, he'll probably have. There's a big like old school camcorder that I played with for a while. There's also lots of really cool microphones, like a contact microphone and all that. It's got basically everything you need. If you ask very nicely, he'll pull things out of storage for you. Like I got a huge overhead projector because I asked very nicely. So we have basically everything you need to make almost whatever you want. And if they can't find it for you, then you either have to get it yourself, or they'll probably try and order it in if it's like reasonable, which is quite nice. And then in terms of how many films you get to make, you can make as many as you want.
Basically, like we have what we're working towards for our assignments. So at the moment, Sophie and I are finishing off our 5-minute, essentially pre-screeners for our dissertation film for over summer. So that's that one. But last semester, I ended up making loads. So we have, because it was all very experimental, I was making, I made like an observational documentary just for a workshop, which I ended up really enjoying doing, and actually got into an exhibition a couple months ago. And then made lots of other shorts for our like experiments. Had to have up to 5 minutes of footage. So we kind of all made lots of different films and kind of edited them together as a sort of like reel. But yeah, you can kind of just make what you want. It has to be obviously towards the course to some degree, but I've been making stuff just outside the course as well, with things, or just playing around with ideas, and then it ends up being in something else I've made further down the line. So it's great. Like you can just make things, but as long as it's going towards, your ultimate end goal with working towards a dissertation film, that's what you're doing the course for, really, at the end of the day. It's great. So there's loads of room, loads of help to do that. And Sophie and I have also been, we've all been doing this, keeping blogs that is submitted alongside our films at the end of each semester. It's basically like our sketchbook, our production diary. And that's a great skill that I've learned as well. I should have mentioned this earlier, because I'm going to take that with me. It's my whole portfolio, basically. I can take that out to the degree with me. I can keep adding to it as my practice develops. I can show people in job interviews, or if I want to work with other people, it's exactly, it's my portfolio ready to go. So just having loads of stuff on there is great. But yeah, for my film right now, I'm in like my 11th edit. I've got like 11 different copies of it. So yeah.
I mean, it's just worth reinforcing, Jason. I hope that answers your question. The course is not the same as we're not training people for the industry in the same way as you might do with other film school models. That the emphasis is very much on experimentation and experimental filmmaking. So experimenting with equipment, but also that all of your experimentations need to be underpinned by research, by rigorous research. So you can kind of do what you want, but you can't really, because you actually have to have some kind of rationale and research brief that you design yourself in order to be able to then kind of experiment through practice. So it's different to film school in that respect. Film school will teach you the industry level equipment and the skills to work in the industry now, whereas we're asking students to kind of develop new ideas for their own kind of practice in the future, and that's the kind of difference there. So thank you very much for those. Yeah,
doing what you want, working towards it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got a lovely question from Millie Ray as well. So thanks again for that supplementary question, which is to tell us a little bit about the size of the MLitt cohort, which I think is slightly different in a way, isn't it?
Yeah, usually, Millie, it's between 25 and 30. And we typically split the cohort up into two groups for core courses, so that you get a good seminar experience as well. Can I also say something while I'm on,
yes,
Kirsten, about the TV festival, which I should have said
yes,
after Wheating spoke about a festival option. To live in Glasgow or Edinburgh is to have experience of and access to a range of festivals, and they're a critical part of the cultural economy up here. And one of the most recent and successful festivals has been the Edinburgh Television Festivals, which 2 members of staff are involved in, and also postgraduate students have started to help them with that as well. And that's a good opportunity for networking and for getting exposure to the industry and to industry professionals. And it includes the McTaggart Lecture, which has been delivered in recent years by the likes of Emily Maitlis, just after she left the BBC to become freelance, and last year Louis Theroux. So it's a really interesting and engaging occasion to attend, which would be open to you if you were a postgrad student with us here at Glasgow.
That's really good to know. Excellent, thank you. There's a question. I'm just sort of conscious of time. We're kind of coming up to 10 minutes. So any more questions in the chat, please let us know, and we'll try to answer them. But I want to ask a question as somebody who's relatively new to Glasgow, and it's a general question to everybody. So it's a bit of a free for all, jump in. And that is, and I say this with a great big smile on my face as a newcomer, tell me about living in Glasgow. And you've partly told us something about living in Glasgow and being in Scotland anyway, Ian. But I want to sort of get that question in before we finish. Tell us about specifically coming to Glasgow and being in Glasgow, because I think that's a really interesting and positive question from my point of view. Who wants to go first? Go on, Holly. Go for it.
Go first. I feel like I'm a little bit. Well, I've lived in Scotland for 6 years now, but I commute to Glasgow from Edinburgh, But I'm hoping to move this summer to Glasgow because I've fallen in love with it. But it's such a good city. There's so much going on. There's loads of opportunities to go to do filmy things. We've just had the Glasgow Film Festival and the Short Film Festival, which was great. Went to a screening that one of my films was in with friends. That was a nice little night out. And there's just so much going on. Loads of things to do socially. There's the huge Calvin Grove Park, which is so nice when it's finally sunny like it is now. But
which is right by the university, we should say.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. Yeah. And there's loads of cute little coffee shops. Like where the uni is fantastic. Like there's loads of cute coffee shops and vintage shops if that's your that's your hobby, like it is mine. But there's just so much going on. But yeah, I'm a bit of a fraud here because I don't actually live there yet. But everyone else does, so it's good.
Anyone else want to tell us anything more about living in Glasgow and studying here, or from a professional point of view? Yes.
I've been here for 5 years. I think that's ages, but I did my undergrad and my master's here. And I think when you first move here, it can be really scary. Like everyone told me back where I'm from, it's very sunny. They're like, how can you move there? It's gonna be miserable. And it is a little bit miserable in the winter, but the second summer hits, Glasgow just lights up. It's really great here. There's so much to do. Even in the winter when you're sad, there's all these different societies at the uni. I helped co-found the Poetry Society. I think everyone should join one because it's a really easy way to make friends, and you actually do end up meeting a lot of people, even though it might sound a little bit intimidating at first. There's just a lot to do in the uni. There's people here who are so friendly. They'll help you out. It's good. If you live in the West End, it's beautiful. I've only ever lived in the West End, but living right near the uni, it's really easy to commute. I know Holly goes all the way from Edinburgh, which is very impressive. But no, Glasgow is a great place to study in general. So yeah.
Hui Ting, do you want to add to that? And Ian, and then Hui Ting.
Just to add to what Sophie said, when I was a student here, it really made an important difference to me that Glasgow wasn't a campus university. It's part of the city and part of the West End. And to be in an environment like that, for me, was really, really important and really enjoyable and really productive, because I spent 3 years at the university, 4 years at the University of Warwick, which is a campus university and some way apart from Coventry. And so to be in a city like Glasgow as part of your university experience is really enriching, for me anyway. And it's just it's a distinctive city. The people are wonderfully unique, friendly, humorous, and down to earth, and they make a difference to making you feel welcome here, or at least they did to me. Yeah.
That's lovely, thank you. We've got a tiny little bit of time to see if either Lizelle or Hui Ting have anything to say in answer to or to add.
Thank you. I think Glasgow is very friendly, and I moved here maybe 3 years. And I think it's very friendly to the Chinese person, and because who live in Western area in Glasgow, here has a lot of Chinese restaurant and supermarket, and it's almost still have a life in China. So as an international student, I think Glasgow is a good choice.
Excellent, thank you very much. And I don't know whether anybody wants to say anything further. Lizelle?
Well, actually, I can actually speak on behalf of one of my previous students who last year I asked some of the students to write testimonials about their their time in Glasgow. And I just found a really beautiful quote. So I'll just read that out. I think it will summarize what students have been saying about Glasgow. So the student wrote, the question was, what were your experience living and studying in Glasgow? And the student wrote, this is one of the topics I feel most strongly about. The city of Glasgow has brought back many fond memories. I became interested in Scotland and Glasgow at the application stage 2 years ago. I was looking forward to living and studying in this beautiful, historic and welcoming city. My year here had lived up to the expectations, and I had been helped by many friendly and kind people. Whether it was a smile from a stranger or a greeting from a friend, I gained a sense of warmth here. In this multicultural city, I had been able to meet people and films from different cultures, and the festivals in Glasgow and the surrounding cities have given me many opportunities to learn and practice as a film student. I think this is something I cannot get in other cities. Glasgow's rich cultural scene, such as cinemas, museums, various art galleries, and film archives, provided ample resources for studying film. So I thought that was quite a nice summary of what Glasgow has to offer.
Thank you. That's wonderful. But thank you for finding that. So it's at this stage then that I want to say I should bring the chat to a close. I hope that it was helpful to people who've been coming on, and thank you very, very much for joining this. But also I want to say a big special thank you to Hui-Ting Yang, Sophie Babcock, Holly Lawrenson Evans, particularly, and congratulations to all of you for your latest submissions, and good luck with your dissertations. And to thank Dr. Ian Good and Dr. Lizelle Bischoff as well for all of your insights too. And I wish you all a very enjoyable evening, afternoon, or day. And so thank you, and I think we will be sort of closing quite shortly. So thank you very much. Thank you.